Hernan Cortes, the famous explorer, did something absolutely wild that will blow your mind. You won't believe what went down in the annals of history. Join us for an eye-opening journey through 6 mind-blowing things he did that will leave you in awe, revealing the audacious decisions, brutal tactics, and devastating impact of his actions. Don't miss this unbelievable piece of history. Stick around to find out why what Cortes did is still talked about today. Whether you're into history or just love a good story, this one will keep you hooked. Hernan Cortes was a Spanish conquistador who led an expedition that conquered the Aztec Empire in Mexico in 1521. He was a ruthless and ambitious leader who played a significant role in the history of the Americas. Cortes had this knack for pushing boundaries. And by boundaries, we mean other people's boundaries. Born into privilege in Spain, he had an itch for adventure and fame. So when the chance to head west to the Americas came knocking, he didn't hesitate. Off he went, chasing after his dreams with little care as to who he trampled in order to reach his goals. He did some truly insane things along the way that we can seldom imagine. Let's discuss 6 of the most insane ones. Number 6. He burnt his own ships. On February 18, 1519, just after arriving in Mexico with only around 600 men, he torched his own ships. Yes, you heard that right. It might sound bizarre, but Cortes had a method to his madness. He and his men faced a real pickle. They were outnumbered by the colossal Aztec Empire and had landed without any hope of backup or reinforcements. Now, in that tight spot, he realized that for his scheme to succeed, there was no turning back. No room for second thoughts or a sneaky escape plan. So burning the ships wasn't just some crazy fire-starting act. It was a symbolic move, a way for Cortes to tell his crew, hey, mates, we're in this together. No turning back now. That sacrifice of letting those ships go up in flames worked wonders. It united his men under a common cause, making them believe in their leader's unwavering dedication to this wild mission. Strategically speaking, it wasn't just about the flames. By burning those vessels, Cortes cut off any chances of their enemies using them to tip off the Aztec Empire about their Spanish invasion. That gave Cortes some breathing space, time to gather intel, make pals with potential allies, and craft a game plan to take down Tenochtitlan, the Aztec capital. Number 5. Hernan Cortes manipulated faith and power. Cortes arrived in Mexico in 1519 and quickly gained the trust of Aztec Emperor Moctezuma II by manipulating the people's faith. He posed as an angel from on high, a representative of the god Quetzalcoatl, however you pronounce that, who was said to have returned to recover his people. Cortes could easily enter the Aztec capital of Tenochtitlan thanks to his skillfully produced image that played on the people's sincerely held religious beliefs. As Cortes solidified his power and authority, the respect given to him as a divine ambassador gradually faded. His plan to seize Emperor Moctezuma II from the imperial palace was well thought out. This bold move exposed Cortes for the brutal conqueror he was, shattering whatever illusions he may have created of being an empathetic diplomat. Cortes used religion as a tool beyond just obtaining support. He attempted to impose his Christian faith on the defeated Aztecs by using Christian symbols to replace the Aztec pantheon of deities. As the Aztecs revered their ancient customs, they resisted and felt betrayed by this act of oppression. Traditional Aztec beliefs and customs were torn apart by the conquest and Christianization that led to the destruction of Aztec temples. A deep scar was left on the indigenous population by this theological upheaval, which, along with the violence of the invasion, shaped their history and identity for decades to come. Number 4. He killed thousands of innocent people. Before Christopher Columbus set off, the Aztec Empire was a real powerhouse in Mesoamerica. It was centered in what's now Mexico. The Aztecs were an extremely sophisticated people group. They spoke Nahuatl and had a sprawling empire that they had built through alliances. Their capital, Tenochtitlan, was massive and vibrant, giving even European cities a run for their money. It's said that at that time, only Constantinople was larger than Tenochtitlan, But in 1521, things took a nosedive. Cortes and his unstoppable crew brought the Aztec Empire crashing down. They had the upper hand as they were fortified in fancy weaponry, armor, and horses. To top it off, they also brought with them diseases the Aztecs had no immunity to. What's more, some of the Aztecs' rivals joined forces with the Spanish, sealing the Aztec Empire's fate. It marked the beginning of Spanish rule in Mexico, leaving a long-lasting impact that echoes through history. As Cortes and his crew headed toward Tenochtitlan, they teamed up with the Tlaxcalans, who weren't exactly pals with the Aztecs. They guided Cortes to Cholula, this Aztec city known for its sacredness, but with barely any defense. Cortes gathered unsuspecting priests and nobles before the city's temple square, and then, in a chilling and ruthless move, they blocked all exits, turned violent, and set the city on fire. The result? Within a few hours, anywhere from 3,000 to 30,000 people were brutally killed. This slaughter at Cholula was an absolute horror show, demonstrating the horrible brutality of Cortes's conquest. The aftermath of this grim event resonated with the immense suffering the Mesoamerican civilizations endured during the era of Spanish conquest. Number 3. He did several massacres for power. Among his worst deeds were the massacres he planned and carried out, which left a wake of death and destruction. The Noche Triste, also known as the Night of Sorrows, was the site of one of the worst murders in history in the year 1520. After being chased out of Tenochtitlan, the Aztec capital, Cortes and his troops decided to march and lay siege on any Aztecs in their path. Thousands of Aztecs were killed when the conquistadors fled across a causeway that went out of the city under continuous siege. Many more drowned in the lake that encircled the city as they tried to flee the carnage. The violence of Cortes wasn't confined to the battlefield. Torture and intimidation were common tactics he employed to gain information from his adversaries. He frequently tortured Aztec nobles to learn the whereabouts of their wealth and other goods. He also used terror to maintain order among the Aztec people. One particularly awful incident of Cortes's brutality occurred in Cholula, a community that had initially welcomed the Spanish. After discovering a deadly plot against his men, Cortes committed a bloodbath. The streets of Cholula were littered with the dead of thousands of defenseless civilians who were slaughtered by his forces. Cortes's killings were not just random acts of violence, they were planned moves meant to scare and control the Aztec people. Cortes wanted to break the spirit of his enemies and show that he was in charge by proving that he was determined to be so cruel. Number 2. Smallpox induction. Taking over Tenochtitlan, which was the capital of the Aztec Empire, wasn't just a matter of military tactics. It also involved terrible things like epidemic warfare that no one saw coming. Hernan Cortes's determined chase of Tenochtitlan was greatly helped by smallpox, a biological weapon that was not meant to be used. As soon as the Spanish came to Mexico, they brought diseases that the natives were not immune to. Smallpox, which was one of the deadliest diseases at that time, spread quickly among the Aztecs in 1520, causing a terrible epidemic. Many people in the city died within 70 days of being exposed to the new disease. The smallpox spread in Tenochtitlan was a surprise benefit for Cortes. The disease killed a lot of people and caused a lot of chaos. It weakened the Aztec population and spread fear and confusion among its people. This destruction enabled Cortes to attack the city, which was already under a lot of pressure. The attack was brutal and violent. It lasted for several weeks and was marked by fierce fighting, deaths, and widespread looting. The capital of the Aztec Empire, once known for its beauty and life, had soon become the scene of a terrible battle. When Cortes finally captured Tenochtitlan in 1521, it ended an era for the Aztec Empire. The battle ended with the city giving up to the Spanish. It marked the end of Aztec rule and the start of Spanish colonial rule in the area. Number 1. He killed his wife. During his time in Cuba, Hernan Cortes tied the knot with Catalina Juarez, who happened to be the sister-in-law of the Cuba governor, Velázquez. When the conquest wrapped up, Catalina made her way to New Spain. However, things got pretty awkward between them. You see, Cortes and Velázquez weren't exactly on friendly terms anymore. Despite that, Cortes welcomed Catalina into his life. Sadly, their marriage hit a rough patch because Catalina, being related to Velázquez, simply couldn't give Cortés any children. Meanwhile, Cortés was quite the ladies' man, having multiple mistresses. One of them was La Malinche, an indigenous woman who was his guide and interpreter. Surprise, surprise, Cortés and La Malinche had a son together. Then came a curious turn of events in 1522. Catalina passed away in what seemed to be mysterious circumstances. As the person who might benefit the most from her death, Cortés naturally found himself under suspicion. The authorities launched a formal investigation to get to the bottom of things. But despite all the suspicion, the inquiry didn't uncover any solid evidence pinning the blame on Cortés. In the end, he was never officially found guilty of any involvement in Catalina's demise. Nevertheless, he is still infamous for the supposed murder of his own wife, given the fact that he is the only one who would benefit from it. The Aztec Empire was conquered and Spanish sovereignty was established in Mexico as a result of Cortés's frequently cruel and vicious tactics. He was a memorable and controversial person in the annals of America's past. Do you think what Cortés did was right? Do share your thoughts with us to keep the conversation rolling, and check out our channel for more interesting historical videos.